This video is going to show how to make a simple part from a step file and the fixture to go along with it. The first thing we're going to do is import our step file, and this is the one we're going to do here. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Let's do a top view. Nice and flat on that side, and this side has a few contours in it. So the one thing about this model is it's not really aligned to the machine. You could just go ahead and make a fixture kind of at this strange angle, but I think most machinists would agree it's best to line this part up based on these two holes so that these are aligned in the x-axis. So let's go ahead and do that. And unfortunately, these holes are not at any kind of a nice even angle like 90 degrees or 45 degrees. They're kind of at this strange angle, so it takes an extra little step here. What we'll do is do 3D CAD and then say translate, and then we select our model. And under translate, we have all the translations that we're going to perform on this model. And add plane alignment is the most advanced one. The other ones are just simple offsets, rotate, and scale. So we'll do a plane alignment. And in here, we basically select a plane. Okay. So in the plane select, gives us a few options. We're first going to change over to arc center, and we're going to pick this circle right here as our origin. And then what we can do is click on the select X vector and then click on our second circle. Okay? And then we close this window down, and that aligns our part in the x-axis. And the first hole that we selected is our origin now. Okay? So one other thing is I also want to flip this over. So in our translates, we're going to add another one, say add rotate, and that's after the plane alignment, so it'll be done in the correct order. We do 180 degrees, and that's going to rotate around the x-axis. Okay, so we could select this and change it to whichever axis we want, but in this case we want to rotate around the x so that the contour part of this is facing up. Okay, so so now our part's oriented how we want to hold it in the machine, and it's easier to work with like this. So what we're going to do is make a fixture, and in order to do that, we're going to say a new 2D sketch, and we can leave our origin plane alone. It's right at our original origin there, and then we're going to go to sketch and say project curve to sketch plane, and this will allow us to select some curves from our model and project those to the sketch plane. It's not much of a projection because our sketch plane is actually exactly on this bottom face here, but it'll put it on the sketch plane. Okay, so we'll go to 3D edge and just select our two circles. Pretty basic. And for now, we can just go ahead and turn off our model. So now we just have our two circles. Okay. So actually, let's turn it back on real quick just so we can draw a rectangle to represent our starting material. So we do create rectangle, two-corner rectangle. So we'll do something like that. And of course, you'd have to modify this for whatever size starting material that you're using. You can just type in the dimensions right here. You have your two corners, so you have your X amount from the origin, and then your Y amount, so that's this corner up here, and then this corner down here. So of course the difference between this negative X value and this positive X value is going to be the width of your starting material. The difference between this and this will be the height and the Y-axis. And there are other ways to define a rectangle. We can do a center and a corner, which is easier to input a width, a length and a width. But for now, this is going to be fine for what we're doing. So now we can go ahead and turn off our model, and we're just going to make our toolpath right in 2D. We could extrude this out and actually make a 3D model, but I don't think we really have to do that. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and come over here to 3D CAD, and we'll do insert a pocket instruction. Our default tool is over here in our table of tools, the 3/8 short flat bottom end mill, which is going to be fine for making this part. You can pretty much use a flat bottom 3/8 end mill to do the entire thing. except for maybe some of the drilling and tapping. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just select the rectangle, and then we have to tell it that we want this chain here to find islands. Okay, so we just change the find islands to true. It defaults to false, and well, let's just go ahead and do it. We can actually, rather than going in and changing the data in there, we can click this find islands checkbox and then select our chain, and then it automatically gets set to true. Either way, they both end up doing the same thing. So let's go ahead and refresh that toolpath, and that's good enough. We could probably go ahead and just run that. It's better any time that you can avoid plunging in the center, which is what this will do right here. It's better to start on the outside and work your way in. So we can go ahead and go to our starting chain and just click on this, and then select the outside again. So now it's going to automatically chain all the way around there, and that'll be our starting chain. So let's refresh that. Okay, and that looks good. So now, since we're working in 2D, we have to be a little bit conscious of the depths. So we'll do something like a depth of, say, 100 thou, something like that. So when we cut this, what this is going to do is it's going to basically take the entire aluminum block that we start with for our fixture and just recess the entire thing down except for these two circles. So then we can take our part and just place it right on top of those, and it'll locate very accurately, assuming that we make the fixture accurately, we don't have any tool deflection or anything like that, and our part, the holes in our part, are made accurately. Okay? And then what I would probably do, this is kind of a small part, so I think we can get away with it. It's not really an easy part to hold. And I don't really like using such small screws, but I would probably drill and tap in the center of these with a small diameter hole, or I mean a small diameter drill, and then tap them, and then we can just hold the part onto our fixture from the top just with normal bolts. I'm not too sure what size they would be, but it's going to be small. These are like 200,000 diameter holes, something like that. So so in metric, that's like 5 millimeter diameter, I believe. So we would have to have like a 3 millimeter bolt to go down the center of each of these, and then some washers on the top to hold this part down. Okay, so then once we're done with that, let's just go ahead and erase our fixture part of this program. We're not going to use it at all anymore. Once we made the fixture, we can pretty much just throw this out. So we'll erase the sketch and erase our toolpath. So the first operation, this is assuming this is going to be our starting workpiece. You'd have to modify your starting workpiece, which I showed in a different video, but you have to modify this based on whatever size of the starting material that you start with. So the first operation would be something like you just mill flat one side of this, and then you drill two holes here that are exactly this diameter, or you could circular interpolate them, and then this entire block just fits onto the fixture that we just made. Okay, and then once you do that, you have to be conscious that you're going to have washers and a bolt up here on both sides that are holding this block to the fixture. But there's no reason for us to have to cut this surface again, because we've already cut that in the previous operation in the vise. So now we're just basically, we have this block of aluminum in there, and we just have two bolts that we have to avoid, and we can just cut all the way around the entire perimeter and cut the rest of the part out in one setup. Yep, so let's go ahead and show how to program this now. So the first thing that I would do is, of course, fill in your stock workpiece dimensions, and then just insert a rough solid instruction, and then just select your solid. And make sure you have your tool set right. We'll just stick with the 3/8 and just refresh it. Okay, and then we end up with something like that. And this is just going to basically rough out most of the material. so that we can, get in there and start doing some of the details. So after you do this, you would just press cycle start and it would start to cut this out. Okay. And once you, before we move on, we can also do a toolpath simulation, just kind of make sure it's something like what we're looking for and it looks good. Just going to kind of go all the way around the perimeter and cut the whole thing out. Okay, so then after that, we want to save that because that's actually going to be part of our ongoing program. We're going to save this file at some point, and this is going to be our master program. Okay, so once we do that, we've basically milled everything down, and we can start doing some finished work. So we come over here to 2D instructions. And then I'd probably grab a profile, which is just going to go around the perimeter of something. Real simple, kind of a 2D cut. And we'll just pick one of these chains. We'll just go ahead and pick, let's actually grab one of these over here on this side. Okay, and then we can hit refresh. And this is going to actually step the Z down. We probably would not have to do that. We could probably, depending on how far down we cut with our roughing routine, we can probably just go ahead and change the max Z step all the way down. Just make this a big number, 1 inch. So it's going to just go right all the way down to the depth that we selected here and just do a cut all the way around one time. So that would cut out the entire perimeter of this part. Okay. And you could do this in 2 cuts. You could you can cut this and leaving an additional compensation. So like if you wanted to leave, say 10 thou, you cut it once at 10 thou and then once at 0, and then you have your finished cut. Okay, and that would just be 2 separate profile instructions, one right after the other. Okay, so for simplicity, I'll just leave it like this for now. And now we're going to basically just finish this flat area right here. So we'll do, oops, not a profile for this one. We want to do a pocket for this one. And then come over here and select on our chains 3D face. We'll just grab this face right here and refresh that toolpath. And so that looks good. So we probably could go ahead and cut this the way that it's decided to cut it. But what it's really doing here is just doing a pocket from this outside and all the way around the perimeter here. That's basically just this face. So what we can do though is we have already machined the entire perimeter, so this part is kind of open, right? So what we would preferably do is select the starting chains here and just change this over to manual chain. You don't want it to automatically chain, but you just come over here and just select all of these edges right here. Okay. And then refresh our toolpath. And now you can see it's going to start on the outside and work its way in. So won't leave any sharp edges or anything like that. It's gonna work a lot nicer to cut it like this. And we can do a toolpath simulation and just make sure it's doing what we expect. Okay. So that gets most of it. So now we just kind of have one more step right up here to do. And for this one, it's actually too small to do a pocket routine on because the 3/8 is much larger than this width right here. So we just go ahead and go right to a profile cut that basically the same routine as what we did for this outside cut. We just do it on this inside right here. So let's comment this one out here. Okay, and insert, oops, not a pocket, insert a profile. Okay, so now on our chains to machine, we'll just bring up our page here. And I'm just going to go ahead and manually pick these off. I might be able to automatically pick them off, but I'm just going to do it manually. Because I don't want it to go all the way around and try and cut this chain also. So I'm just going to pick the chains that I actually wanted to cut, or the entities I wanted to cut. So we're going to start right in here, actually go all the way out to this one, and then go to this one, and keep going all the way around. This guy, and this one right here. And that should be good. So let's refresh that and see what we get. Yep, looks good. So that's going to start over here, and yeah, just go around and just cut that whole thing out in one cut. And again, just like I explained on the full perimeter here, we could do this in 2 cuts if we wanted a finished pass. Probably not required because this is really going to be cut down after our rough solid routine. And I think that's pretty much it. Okay, thanks.